The valley already smelled of snow when John Reeves lowered the steaming pot into a wooden box packed tight with hay. No flame touched it.
Cooking with grass, Reeves? You've lost your last splinter of sense.
The small crowd that had gathered in the yard laughed along, their breath smoking in the sharp air. Anna Reeves tightened her shawl around her shoulders, her jaw locked against the mockery.
You hear that, Reeves? Feeding your family horse feed. Next you'll be putting oats in their boots.
He's not cooking with hay. He's using it to keep the heat. It's a fireless cooker.
Fireless cooker? Sounds like a cold supper to me. Just like your father's brain.
Anna, inside, now.
John Reeves didn't look back. He walked toward the cabin, the crowd's laughter following him, but the haybox sat there, steaming stubbornly, and beneath the packed golden straw, the stew continued to cook. No fire, no coals, just the slow, patient heat of hay. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low on purpose. John sat at the rough table, his daughter across from him, the silence heavier than the oak walls.
Why do you let them laugh at you? You could just cook over the flame like everyone else.
Because your mother froze in her own bed. We ran out of wood. I won't let that happen again.
His scarred hands kept stirring the pot. The motion was old, like a prayer.
Does it really work? The hay, no fire at all?
John lifted the lid. Steam erupted, thick and rich, carrying the scent of slow-cooked meat and roots.
It's perfect, tender as any hearth supper.
Every pot we bury saves enough logs to keep us alive another night. That's all that matters.
Then I'll help you. I don't care if they call us grass eaters.
Outside, the snow thickened. Inside, the haybox held its stolen warmth, and Anna's hands cupped a handful of golden straw as if it were a promise. The bell above the general store door had barely stopped ringing when Charles Harkin's voice filled the cramped room.
Well, if it isn't the hay farmer and his filly. Come to buy more grass seed, Reeves.
Don't you dare cry. Not here. Not in front of him.
The few neighbors by the stove chuckled, their own woodpiles still deep enough to feel immune.
I heard your pot sat in the hay all night and still came out cold, as a widow's bed.
Just need flour and salt.
The clerk smirked as he weighed the small sack, but John's face betrayed nothing.
You are so tight with your coin, Reeves. That haybox must be eating your savings along with your firewood.
He doesn't know what it cost us, what it already cost us.
They walked out into the frozen street, the laughter trailing behind them like smoke from a dying chimney. On November 22nd, a warning was nailed to the meeting house. A blizzard was swallowing the passes. 2 days, maybe less. By midday, timber prices had doubled. Men who'd laughed with Charles now counted their sticks with hard eyes. John's splitting axe hadn't touched a log in 4 days. The haybox stretched his woodpile further than any neighbor's. Anna carried a pot of stew to the widow Cartwright, who'd just bought her wood by the stick.
You don't need to feed the fire all day. Boil a pot, bury it in hay, and it cooks without another splinter.
The woman laughed. That grass cooker nonsense. I'll not waste my hay. The door slammed. Anna walked back. John, shoveling, saw her face and kept working.
They'd rather freeze than take a handful of hay from us.
Then their pride will keep them cold. We'll have wood enough.
By nightfall, the first hard flakes fell, a driving wall of white that stung the skin. Within a week, the valley vanished under drifts up to the eaves. Woodpiles shrank with every passing night. Charles Harkin stood at his window, counting the logs left in his shed. 9, maybe 10, not nearly enough. A quarter-mile away, John Reeves's woodpile still stood half a cord high, preserved because the haybox needed only a quarter of the flames.
Reeves. The whole valley's scraping bark for fuel, and you are sitting on a cord of split oak. What's your secret?
No secret. I cook with hay. My wood lasts longer.
That grass cooker nonsense. You must have a second pile hidden somewhere. No box of straw saves that much.
Believe what you want, hearken. My stove knows the truth.
Charles stalked back through the drifts, anger and a cold worm of doubt eating at his chest. That night, while John slept, Anna lit a candle and began stitching heavy canvas into a liner for the hay box.
One family at a time. They'll see.
2 days later, the valley's families crowded into the meeting hall, the air thick with smoke and fear.
We all know who's sitting on a full wood pile while the rest of us freeze. John Reeves and his haystack kitchen.
The room turned. John felt the weight of 100 eyes, but he stood.
The hay box works. I boil the pot for 10 minutes, then bury it. No more fire needed. You all could save half your wood.
Save wood with grass? You are either a liar or a lunatic. The man's hoarding timber and spinning fairy tales.
The crowd's rumble grew into open laughter. Anna's chair scraped back.
He's not a liar. My mother froze because we had no wood left. He promised never again. This hay box, it works. I've seen it.
A few sneered. Others shifted uncomfortably. Charles smirked.
Anna, enough.
John pushed open the heavy door, and the wind swallowed his footsteps. Anna followed into the white fury, the laughter chasing them out. That night, Anna slipped out with the finished liner folded under her cloak, the moonless sky swallowing her whole.
Mrs. Cartwright, open up. I have something to keep your young ones warm.
She taught the widow to bury a boiling pot in the canvas and hay, whispering instructions in the cramped, cold kitchen.
10 minutes on the fire, then the hay finishes it. You'll save half your wood and no one has to know.
When Anna crept back inside, John stood in the dark, arms crossed, a shadow cut from granite.
I forbade you to share that. They mocked us. Let them freeze.
I won't let another woman die with a cold stove like Mother did.
John's jaw tightened. He turned his back without a word.
He can forbid me all he wants. I'll sew liners every night if I have to.
Anna lit a candle and began stitching another liner, the hay spilling from the seams like a quiet promise she could no longer keep to herself. In the Harkin cabin, the cough had grown so deep the walls seemed to rattle. His wife Marie lay shivering under every blanket they owned.
No wood. I burned the last chair this morning.
He stared through the frost at the empty woodshed, a single dead branch leaning against it. Marie's lips were blue, and the stew had been cold for 2 days. The cold was punishing him for his pride.
John Reeves buried a pot in hay and cooked all night without a flame. What if it wasn't a lie? But I laughed him out of the meeting. I called him a lunatic. How do I face him now?
He stood at the window, the snow reflecting a bitter light on his face, his own breath frosting the pain.
Marie is dying. My pride won't warm her.
He reached for his coat on the hook, then stopped, his hand trembling. The walk to John's cabin had never seemed so long. He looked back at Marie. The straw in John's box had seemed so warm, and the cold in his own chest felt like judgment. The deadliest winter storm in 30 years fell on the valley, a wall of white that erased the mountains. Inside John Reeves's cabin, the fire burned low, but the haybox had cooked a meal for 2 days without another log.
Somewhere out there, 2 families are eating warm tonight. I hope it's enough.
In the widow Cartwright's kitchen, she lifted the lid of a haybox, steam rising, her children's faces reflecting the heat. 2 miles away, a family huddled under blankets, their stove cold. The wood was gone.
3 liners. Not enough. Not nearly enough.
We'll last longer than most. This haybox was your mother's last gift to me.
By the 3rd day, the drifts reached the rooftops. No one could venture out, but in the haybox, the stew simmered on, the stolen heat of one small fire lasting into the 2nd day. And while the valley buried itself in snow, John Reeves still had half a cord. On the 4th day, the wind fell just enough for Anna to slip through the drifts. She returned before dawn, snow-crusted and silent.
You were at the widow's again. I can smell the hay on your cloak.
I gave her a liner. Her children were blue with cold. What would you have me do?
I would have you obey me. I forbade it. You know why?
You forbid because you are still trying to punish the town for being too late to save her. But Mother wouldn't have wanted this silence.
The mention of his wife hit John like a physical blow. His fists clenched, then went limp.
She would have baked bread for the whole valley if she'd known this trick. She'd have wept if we let them die.
Don't use her against me.
I am not using her. I am being her. You taught me how to survive. Now let me teach them.
John turned to the frosted window and pressed his forehead against the glass, his breath fogging the dark. John didn't sleep. He sat in the dark, listening to Anna's needle pull through canvas, each stitch a quiet defiance.
He'll come around or he won't. I can't stop sewing while children freeze.
When the candle burned low and the wick sputtered, John pulled a chair beside her, the wood scraping the floor.
Show me where the heat escapes. I've been angry too long to see straight.
Here at the corners. If we double-stitch the seam, the hay stays tight and the pot holds heat overnight.
He took the needle in his scarred hand and worked the thick thread, his fingers remembering lessons Clara had taught him years ago.
Clara would be proud of her, and maybe of me if I let her.
I am not asking you to forgive Charles, just to let me help the ones who didn't laugh.
The rest of the valley can freeze for all I care right now, but these liners will make them right.
The needle passed back and forth until dawn touched the frost on the window. Father and daughter stitching a new kind of wall between themselves and the cold. Through the frozen dark, a single figure fought the drifts, his breath tearing from his chest like a wounded animal's.
Reeves, open the door. Marie is dying. She hasn't eaten warm food in 3 days.
Anna pulled the latch before John could stop her. Charles fell across the threshold, crusted in white, his beard a mask of ice.
You've come to the wrong house. Hearken. You laughed when my family froze, and now you want my hay.
I know what I am. I know what I said, but I am not asking for me. Marie coughs blood, and our stove is cold as a grave.
He dropped to both knees, and the sound of his coat slapping the wet floor echoed in the silent room.
Father, he's kneeling. Think of Mother. If someone had helped us.
He humiliated me in front of the whole town. Every word he said about me, about Clara, and now he's begging.
I'll work your woodpile for a year. I'll carry water. Just give me one liner. 1 pot of hot stew, please.
John's hand gripped the doorframe until the wood groaned. Every laugh, every sneer, every cold night burned in his chest. Behind his eyes, John saw Clara again. Her lips blue, the fire dead, the woodpile gone. He had begged for help, and no one had come.
If I let Marie die, I am no different than the ones who let Clara die.
He released the doorframe and knelt beside Charles, one scarred hand gripping the frozen shoulder.
Get up. I'll show you how the haybox works.
You'll help me after all I said?
John pulled a fresh liner from the stack and placed the steaming pot inside. His scarred hands packed the hay tight.
Boil the pot for 10 minutes. Bury it in the hay. Then let it sit. It'll cook through the night.
Charles watched, his tears melting the frost on his beard as the simple straw swallowed the pot's stolen heat.
You'll need this.
Charles clutched the liner to his chest and stumbled out into the storm. Inside, Anna let out a sob and pressed her hand to her mouth, but her eyes were bright with relief. By morning, Anna had a plan. She knotted her shawl and stepped into the wind, a stack of fresh liners in her arms. She knocked on doors that had once shut on her, but this time women followed, drawn by the rumor of warm food.
Bring canvas, needles, all your spare hay. We'll meet at the hall. I'll teach you what my father taught me.
By midday, the meeting hall was no longer a place of mockery. It was a workshop of desperate hands.
Pack the hay tight, no gaps. The pot goes in boiling and the hay holds the heat for hours.
A dozen needles moved, the sound like snow on a frozen roof, and the hay spilled golden onto the rough tables. By nightfall, 3 new liners lay finished. The widow took one, a young mother another, a gaunt farmer the third. In those 3 homes, pots were lowered into the golden straw, and the slow heat began its work.
It's spreading. Mother, I hope you can see this.
The cold still held the valley, but the haybox had turned from a joke into a lifeline. Within days, the proof was undeniable. Wood piles that should have vanished held steady, an extra split log or 2 still standing each morning. In the Harkin cabin, Marie took a full bowl of broth, her cheeks pink for the first time in weeks.
She was dying. Now she's talking. Your father's grass box did that.
At the meeting hall, the sewing tables were now crowded with men, farmers and teamsters who had once sneered at grass cooking.
No, the hay has to be dry. If it's damp, the heat won't hold. Use the straw stored in the loft, not the ground.
The valley, which had been silently counting its dead, began counting the saved. Every liner that left the hall meant one more family cooking through the night on a single morning's fire. John Reeves passed the hall on his way to the woodpile and stopped. He did not go in,
They're not laughing now.
but he turned back to his cabin, leaving the hall to Anna and the quiet work that was slowly saving them all. The snow began to soften in late February, the first trickle of melt running down the eaves. As the drifts shrank, families emerged to count their dead and found only half the graves they had feared.
The whispers are starting, Father. They're saying your name.
They can say what they want. The haybox worked.
The Reeves woodpile still stood taller than any other, but John split no extra logs for his own pride. Anna found him at the edge of the meadow, staring at the old haybox where the snow had retreated.
It wasn't me. It was Clara. She always found a way to keep us warm.
That afternoon, the first green shoot pushed through the mud beside the haybox. The valley was safe, but the man who had saved it still walked alone, and the whispers grew louder with every passing day. Charles Harkin came to the cabin that afternoon, not with demands, but with his hat twisted in his hands.
I've come to pay my debt. Name your price. Reeves, I'll work it off until next winter, if I have to.
I don't want your money, and I've got enough wood for 3 winters.
Then, what do you want? I can't just walk away owing you my wife's life.
Teach it. Take what you learned, and show the next valley over. They'll listen to you. They never would have listened to me.
You'd trust me to carry your secret after everything?
It's not a secret anymore. You are living proof. It works. Go tell them.
Charles sat back, the weight of the offer settling on him. For the first time, he saw John Reeves not as a fool, but as a man who had refused to let winter win.
I'll do it. I'll teach every family from here to the fork. You have my word.
John extended his hand. Charles took it, and the 2 men sat for a long time, watching the green return to the valley. On the first warm Sunday after the thaw, the valley filled the meeting hall, but this time no one was there to mock.
4 months ago, I stood right here and called John Reeves a fool for cooking with hay. That hay saved my wife's life. It saved half the people in this room. I was wrong. He gave us the cheapest fuel saver God ever made. A box of straw cooks a meal. Thank you, John.
The room rose. Men who had sneered now cheered. Anna's hand found her father's arm. John walked to the front, his scarred hands shaking. The silence was absolute.
My Clara showed me. She said, hay can hold a fire's ghost. I just kept her promise.
Charles stepped forward, his hand finding John's, and the 2 men stood clasped as the hall erupted once more. Anna wept without shame. Her mother's name finally spoken aloud in that hall, and the liners, once stitched in secret, now stood stacked and ready for anyone who asked. The following week, Anna stood in the same meeting hall that had once mocked her father and showed the whole town how to pack a haybox.
You don't need a full fire. Boil it, bury it, and let the hay do the rest.
Each family received a pre-made liner, and the line stretched out the door. By summer, the schoolhouse had hayboxes in the corner, and the children learned to sew liners alongside their letters.
Pull the thread tight, Mary. One good seam keeps a family warm.
In the Cartwright cabin, the widow hung her liner by the stove like a family portrait, her children fed and pink-cheeked. The Reeves cabin became a place of quiet honor. Men tipped their hats. Women left fresh bread on the porch. John Reeves rarely spoke of those days, but he began teaching the haybox to anyone who asked. No pride, no secrets. And in the valley, every child born that winter would one day be told they survived because a stubborn man cooked in a box of hay. The Reeves name, once a joke, was now a synonym for survival. Late in the summer, John walked alone to the little plot under the old oak where Clara lay. He knelt and brushed a fallen leaf from the stone. From his pocket he drew a sprig of hay, dry and golden, and laid it on the stone. He closed his eyes, and the words came out like a held breath.
We saved them, Clara. I finally could.
The guilt that had ridden his shoulders for years finally slid away, leaving only peace. The hay sprig caught the last light, a pale gold that matched the setting sun. He stayed there as the shadows lengthened and the sky turned crimson. When he finally rose, his knees were stiff, but his heart was lighter than it had been in years. He walked home through the meadow, and for the first time, he did not look back. On the grave, the sprig of hay remained, a quiet promise kept. A year later, on the first warm day of spring, the valley gathered for what they simply called Hay Day. Families brought out their liners, patching and refilling with fresh straw, turning work into celebration. A great iron pot of hay stew sat in the center of the square, its steam tangling with the apple blossoms overhead. John Reeves sat on a bench with Charles Harkin, sharing a pipe, no words needed between them.
She'd like this. All the hay in the world, and not a single cold hearth.
Children ran barefoot through the meadow, straw clinging to their clothes. Their laughter, the sound of a valley reborn. Anna and Marie Harkin sat together, stitching a new liner. Their silence a friendship hard-won and strong. The haybox, once a secret, now sat on every porch like a promise. Ordinary, beloved, essential. When the sun began to sink, John walked home through the meadow, his pocket full of fresh hay. The sprig he had left on Clara's grave had seeded a whole valley's worth of hope. The valley never forgot the deadliest winter, or the man who cooked in a box of hay. Every year, when the first chill returned, they told of the grass cooker. A wooden box, packed tight with dry hay, could cook a stew on a single fire. It cost nothing but straw and a stubborn promise to keep a wife's memory warm. Children who had never known that winter still learned to sew liners before they could write. And every spring, they placed flowers on the old haybox, a quiet thank you. John Reeves walked the valley for years, his pockets full of hay, his heart finally light. The cheapest fuel saver God ever gave a valley. It asked for nothing but a handful of grass, and it gave back everything.